FragPunk just got a host of new patches and updates. We'll go over both of those, some buffs, nerfs, and removals. That'll lead us on to some additional community updates, and a whole bunch more. What's up, world? It's Utopia back in with another video. Today we're checking out all things FragPunk. Okay, let's just jump right into it. First off, yes, we did get 2 brand new patches here. Now, I didn't cover this one the other day, but it is actually the major patch. Again, another hotfix. But they actually did do some small changes here to the FrogPunk mode, where the cooldown for the Frog's booster has been reduced from 10 seconds to 5 seconds, and the cooldown of the Frog's left-click fire has been reduced from 1 second to 0.6 seconds. So they have actually buffed the Frogs. I did notice mosquitoes were basically winning every single time. Glad they got some nice buffs. They've also optimized the control feel for the mid-air Frogs. Again, a little bit of a decent buff there. And they've adjusted some map boundaries. Seems like some players are maybe getting out with mosquitoes. Next up, we have some massive changes to shard cards. I do believe this is the most changes they've ever done as far as rebalancing, and they've actually removed specific shard cards from ranked. That includes weapon or life, where you essentially can evade being eliminated by dropping your primary weapon. It does it automatically, puts you in a little bit of a teleport animation, and that allows you to respawn with 1 health and a pistol, or whatever your secondary is. Obviously it is a pistol. Although theoretically you could combine that with the primary card or adding a second primary. Probably made that pretty overpowered, but they have now removed that. They've also removed Reaper's Scythe, which was a super strong card. Essentially, this was a wall hack item that allowed you to send slices through walls. It actually did some fairly decent damage, and it was just a little too broken there, especially for ranked. Definitely agree with that one. I'm also surprised they didn't remove the Embrace card. I feel like that card's a little bit too strong, maybe even more strong than the Reapers, but it is still there and it is more avoidable than these two. They also, weirdly enough, removed Let Them Hear You. I assume it's so people don't just spam their microphone, and that would maybe cause a disturbance in ranked. I think it's a really fun card though, kind of sad that they removed it, at least again from the ranked mode, but understandable, again, maybe it caused a disturbance. The next one here was absolutely broken. They've tried to fix bugs with it several times, which is the itchy triggers. It essentially makes your weapon shoot randomly every 5 seconds. It's a really good way to detect where enemies are at, but it was also breaking people trying to plant and defuse bombs. It seems like that bug just kept coming back. I assume it was removed because it was still bugged. They've still been trying to localize that one down. It also was a fairly strong card that made you expend ammo randomly and gave up your position. It had a lot of benefits and was basically taken every time I saw it played, or at least in that front stack that you get. Yeah, I definitely get that one. It is a bit sad to see some cards removed, but they are from rank. Next up here, we did have a few nerfs to cards, but we also had some buffs. So first up for the nerfs, Lucky Bullets, Homing Projectiles, Swift Resolution, and Lifesaver all got increased by 1 shard card point, so they are a bit harder to get those cards if you do want to expend. Now we also have some shard card point decreases here. Now all of these cards did get decreased by 1 point on their shards, or the amount of points that they do cost to actually get them. Fainting Flash, Peace Treaty, Equipment Supply, Free For All, Lingering Smoke, Spreading Smoke, Hidden Cameras, Airborne Justice, Waystone, and Return to Sender all got decreased by 1. The one that is off here actually though, that decreased by 2, is the backup weapon. I've actually never seen this card played ever. I've seen people try to take it, but then nobody ends up putting the rest of the points in. Again, essentially that allows you to have a secondary weapon. Seeing as they've removed weapon or life from ranked, I could see why they decreased this and felt comfortable doing so, as if that was still in ranked, you could definitely play weapon or life with backup weapon. That would have been a huge pick there. However, with backup weapon getting taken down from 5 to 3 shard points, I could see that maybe being taken more, and then also them being comfortable with bringing down that points, or essentially being okay with bringing it down by 2 points there, because without weapon or life, it doesn't really matter to have that backup weapon as much so. That does cover for April's 2nd patch, but we did have one more patch here for April 3rd. Again, I'll mention it a million times, another hotfix, but with that, there was another update to ranked matches. There's only one listed here, but they adjusted the method for earning protection points. Players can only earn ranked protection points by completing Shard Clash matches. Seems like you were able to earn those in other modes, and essentially able to stack that. That's a bit crazy that you could earn losses in other modes and potentially use those as rank protection points. Seems like that was probably a bug or wasn't supposed to be that way, but essentially it looks like if you lost in other modes, you could actually use that in ranked modes, or at least the protection points that you earned from that. That is a bit crazy, but I'm glad they have now fixed that. Speaking of official updates, we had another banned list here, where yes, we did get another anti-cheat report, and they have again now banned 2,105 players. So quite the massive one there, and a decent amount of bans. Again, they report these every week, and I will continue to do so as long as they keep reporting them. I think it's a good deterrent, and it also lets players know that they are still banning cheaters, to which they are very proactive with it. I actually do also have an update on the tick rate. Do you remember my last video? I actually did cover tick rate and the server tick rate. Now, there was some players that said essentially, or people on Reddit saying that even though this person did receive that to their client, that it probably wasn't 124 Hertz. However, we actually do have a developer update here with that. And we have several mentionables here from a dev. He went on to say here that in Shard class mode, just like in standard and ranked, the server is actually running at 128 tick rate, meaning that it gets 8 ms per frame. In arcade mode, it runs at 62 tick rate, which is 16 ms per frame. This applies to all regions except Australia. Since the server hardware, there are some limitations before, but they are updating the Australia server hardware next week to make it 125 tick rate. He further clarified here, saying the funny thing is it was actually Zin, their boss, who insisted on upgrading the servers to 128 tick. This was during their CAT, or closed alpha test, and closed beta test, CBT. The tick rate was only 62.5. He wasn't very happy about that. For a bomb diffusion FPS, he said that wasn't good enough. They mentioned if they wanted to be good at a competitive shooter, they must aim for a 128 tick. So Zin insisted on the devs upgrading it. They're now running at 125, and they mentioned it wasn't the easiest upgrade, but totally worth it for a smooth, precise gameplay. So yes, FragPunk actually does run at 125 tick rate. So just like Valorant, I think it is the only other game that runs at this tick rate, aside from maybe the new CS2 upgrade. Absolutely insane that they got these servers running at that. Really cool to see. I hope this applies to other games eventually as well. Would love to eventually see some Battle Royales get some upgrades. I know, of course, it's a bit harder with 100 players, but Apex and Warzone being at 20 to 30 tick rate just feels absolutely horrible, so I hope they eventually do update those. Moving on, we do have some last minute mentionables from the community. This first one is actually an esports that's happening called the FragPunk Hub, or the Hub Brawl Tournament. It is a 5v5 first edition. Really cool here, it is actually a free entry. It is single elimination, Shard Clash, and Pro rules. That's starting for EU on the 12th and NA on the 13th. I will include a link to it down below so you can go ahead and sign up. Pretty cool there, so we are getting, basically they said the first edition, and I believe it is one of the first, if not the first, NA tournament with FragPunk. We've had a lot in other regions, so really cool there. The prize for that is still to be determined though. It does look like there's also another tournament in Taiwan. Again, I'll include some links to that if you want to check out their tournament, but a ton of esport news here, so really cool on that. Last up here we have one more mentionable, which is that Outbreak seems to have a really long queue time. This is the second post that I've seen on it so far. Although I do believe this is region-based, I believe in NA the queue time is still fairly decent. Both posts that I've seen so far with long queue times have been in other languages, so I do believe that unfortunately it seems like other regions are a bit lower on the Outbreak mode. Whereas this person points out the queue is about 10 seconds. Yeah, for NA it is really fast. I do believe that it is just down lower in other regions. It is unfortunate to see they're not really sure a remedy on that. Playing on those servers, you're going to have a much higher ping, and probably might be a little bit unplayable. We'll see if they do something to address that eventually though. Overall, that should about cover for today's video. If you enjoyed it, like, subscribe, and into the next one. Deuces!